Welcome back. Republicans are praising the move by the FBI to further their investigation into the Clinton emails, but Democrats are not. Top Senate Democrats are demanding more information about the newly discovered emails mentioned in Director Comey's letter, and they want to know what they are, what those details are by tomorrow. They are arguing that the wording is too vague. In part, Comey says this: I agree that the FBI should take appropriate investigative steps designed to allow investigators to review these emails to determine whether they contain classified information, as well as to assess their importance to our investigation. Joining me right now is California Congressman Darrell Issa. He's a member of the House Judiciary Committee. Also with me is Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson. He's the chairman of the Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee. He was among those who received the letter from James Comey. Gentlemen, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Maria.
Well, Senator Johnson, let me kick this off with you. You received the letter. Give us your reaction to the letter and what Jim Comey was trying to tell you in that letter.
Well, first of all, I'm not praising Jim Comey. I think this investigation has been bungled from the start. To me, it's pretty simple, Maria. There's two statutes that really govern here, and I'm going to leave out a lot of the detail, but 18 U.S. Code 2071 says anyone who willfully conceals, destroys any record of the United States shall be fined under or imprisoned not more than 3 years and be disqualified from holding any office in the United States. This investigation, you take a look at the immunity agreements. We've been stonewalled every step of the way in terms of trying to find out exactly what is, how those things came about. But this investigation seemed more designed not to uncover and prosecute, but if anything, to cover up and exonerate. So I'm not one praising Jim Comey whatsoever, and my guess is there are people inside the FBI that's pretty unhappy with him.
So what do you think was the trigger then, Senator, for him to change course and send this letter to Congress? Because we know that Loretta Lynch tried to stop him from doing so. And then I want to ask you about this Yahoo account, because you are the chairman of the Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee, and you have to have an opinion about the fact that Catherine Herridge just reported that Huma Abedin was basically sending her security emails to her Yahoo account because she said it was easier to print them from her Yahoo account. Who knows what she sent to that Yahoo account? So let me get your take first on that. What do you think changed course here for Jim Comey?
Again, I can only speculate, maybe pressure inside the FBI, but now you're talking about the mishandling of highly sensitive national security information, and that's exactly what Secretary Clinton did as well. So, I mean, the fact of the matter is we are not really engaged in a serious investigation here, and when you take a look, one of the things I've asked the State Department is who else is on those email chains? Because, Maria, we all know, when you send an email, is that going to the state.gov classification email system, or is it going to clintonemail.com? President Obama was emailing Secretary Clinton at clintonemail.com. He had to know. This shows and reveals corruption at the highest levels of government, in the White House, in the State Department, in the Department of Justice, and the FBI. That's just the fact. This is such a simple case. It's getting so complex with all these emails. It's actually pretty darn simple. Information was concealed, it was destroyed, it was mishandled, and there's some pretty simple statutes to read. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a prosecutor. I look at this, it's a pretty cut and dry case.
Well, I think you make a really good point, Senator, because we now know that the president did lie to the American people. He was in an interview, specifically asked, when did you learn that Secretary Clinton was using a private email and a private server, which nobody else had done? Never have you seen anybody use a private server. And he said, I learned when everybody else learned. And that we know now was a lie.
He was emailing. So were all kinds of people. High-level officials inside these departments were using that email account. We know it. If you're emailing a Gmail account, you know it. If you're emailing state.gov, you know it.
Yeah.
So no, I think this is a cover-up. I think this is corruption at the highest levels of government. It needs proper congressional oversight. The problem is we're being stonewalled every step of the way. Just look at the immunity agreements. They were granted to Cheryl Mills and Heather Samuelson. They're outrageous.
All right. Well, I want to ask you what your committee is planning to do about it in a second. But, Congressman Issa, let me turn to you, because you have built your career on trying to fight corruption. You wrote a book about it. You've been trying to do this for years. What's your reaction to what we've learned this weekend?
Well, I think if the American people understand that when I sent a letter years ago, while Hillary Clinton was still secretary, specifically because we had discovered that others were using private emails. So every cabinet officer received a request for, are you using a private email server, and how are you accounting under the Federal Records Act? At that point, that letter pretty well put Hillary Clinton, if she wasn't already on notice that those records belonged to the American people and they needed to be retained. If she had left a full copy, even if she had the private server, if she'd left a full and complete copy when she left the State Department, she wouldn't be in this situation today. But very clearly, she sought to avoid public scrutiny of her correspondence, both good and bad, and that's why she's in this position. So when she's complaining that it's only a few days before an election, it's her own fault, including her most close confidant, Uma Ahmadine, who could have turned that information over and clearly didn't meet that obligation, even though they were both under subpoenas.
But, Congressman, can anybody do anything about it? I mean, in the face of all of this, you've got the commander-in-chief basically giving out messages to people, basically saying she didn't do anything wrong, keep moving forward. I mean, it starts at the top, right? And he just called you out. The president did just the other day on the campaign trail. He said, and here's what he said about you, Congressman Issa. We have it on screen. ICE's primary contribution to the United States Congress has been to obstruct and to waste taxpayer dollars on trumped-up investigations that have led nowhere. And this is now a guy who, because poll numbers are bad, has sent out brochures with my picture on them, touting his cooperation on issues with me. Now, that is the definition of chutzpah. That's what President Obama said about you late last week, sir.
Well, he also said there hadn't been a single major scandal during his administration. So there's a little bit of inconsistency with the truth there. But we know that without Congress, and Ron was my partner during my time as chairman of oversight, without the kind of scrutiny that we've had, we wouldn't know about the gun running deal in Fast and Furious. We wouldn't have known the truth about Benghazi. We certainly would still have the IRS targeting groups for their beliefs.
That's true.
So there is a role for Congress, and we have succeeded in shedding light on it. No question at all.
Yep.
If Ron and I are returned to Congress, we're going to have to make sure that laws are put into place that hold the next president more accountable, no matter which party he's in. And that's Congress's role. It's the one that I'm proud we've tried to do, but there's more to be done.
Real quick, Senator Johnson, are you going to do anything about this in terms of the letter that you received? What can you do?
We'll continue to follow up. You know, Donald Trump said it's time to drain the swamp. Hillary Clinton, Senator Feingold, I'm running against Senator Feingold. They've been swamp creatures for over 30 years. They ought to be flushed down the drain with the rest of the swamp.
Wow. Gentlemen, thank you very much. We will be watching the developments. We appreciate your time.